Apple juice for two. Apple juice for two. Apple juice for two.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Apple Juice for Two exclusive interview. Today we're thrilled and honored and pleased to be joined by the founder and owner of Unflappable Studios, Clare Behringer. Clare, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's our joy and our pleasure to have you here. So what have you been up to today?
Well, I woke up, I took my dogs on a walk, I sent out some emails, wrote some social media posts, and then I came here.
That's cool. How many dogs do you have?
2.
What are they?
They're both mutts.
Nice.
One of them, Winkles, also known as Malcolm. He is
also known as Malcolm. Okay.
Yeah, he is a blue heeler rat terrier Australian shepherd mix. So he's a ton of energy, but also loves to cuddle.
Nice.
And then Bomber, he is a lab pit mix. So he's just all food all the time.
Nice.
Yeah, he loves to eat.
I love pit mixes. If I ever got a dog, it would probably be, I would try to adopt like a pit, something.
Yeah.
It seemed really nice.
He's like 80% lab too. So he has that big, goofy, like
lab.
boxy
snout.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. He has
Nice.
that goofy lab look. But yeah.
That's cool. You've always liked animals? Like you said that you like that your maiden name's Wolf, which is pretty cool. But you've always been an animal person?
Yeah, so actually, I've always been extremely sensitive to animals and how they're portrayed in film. So I actually can't get through the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Because there's a scene where it's insinuated that the guy crushes a frog.
Oh my god.
I lost like 3 nights of sleep over that. I was
Wow.
probably 10 years old.
Dang.
Yeah, I'll never watch that movie because
That just hit you really hard.
yeah, which, by the way, for anyone who is sensitive to trigger warnings in films, there is a lovely website called doesthedogdie.com. And before anything, you can go check that website. It has all these different types of trigger warnings, from animal abuse to abuse towards humans, whatever. It gives you the time code for television shows, movies, everything. Doesthedogdie.com.
That's really useful because I feel like a lot of times like trigger warnings happen like too late.
Yes.
By the time they
Yes.
come up, you're already triggered. You know what I mean?
Or like when you're watching a horror film or like a suspense film and then an animal is like, the camera zooms in on an animal and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, what's going to happen? And then you spend the rest of the movie worried. Sometimes it's nice to know, okay, I'm just going to leave the room at this time code because this is a really good movie and I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that kind of takes you out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. So you watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou when you were 10 and stuff?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, only up until that point.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie, but have you always been into like watching films and that kind of stuff, or like?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I've always had an interest in film and television and how that works. Because, you know, you grow up and it's this really cool world on the other side of a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, never mind how a TV is built. How do they build out those worlds? And when you look just outside of the frame, it's not even, it's like that scene in The Wizard of Oz, right? The green,
Mm-hmm.
the wizard, right?
Yeah.
The actual wizard. He comes out from behind
Yeah.
the screen and it's like all magic,
Right.
right? Like, how did this whole thing happen? I don't know. I've always been really interested.
Yeah. They kind of like create a whole world. I mean, like if you look outside that frame, it's probably just like gaffers and like, you know, stands
Yeah.
and lights.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool when you start working on film sets and you not only see what is on your screen, on the TV, on the computer, wherever you're looking, you know, like a millimeter to the right, there's someone standing there probably holding a boom at like a really odd angle,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Exactly.
Which, by the way, boom operators should get a lot of respect because they have to hold that mic sometimes. That really,
They're basically bodybuilders. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. So our boom operator, Carson, we had this joke that like the star of the show were really like her arms because,
Yeah.
I mean, I could not do what she was doing. I mean, she's holding this mic up like this,
Yeah.
and then out
Yeah.
for, I think every take was at least 3 to 5 minutes, which
Dang.
doesn't sound that long, but when you think about it,
Yeah.
most takes in most films are, 15 seconds,
Yeah.
30 seconds.
I tried to get on a ladder and like drill something into a wall, and I had to like take breaks after like 30 seconds. I was like knocked out.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a lot.
intense.
Yeah. And the boom itself weighs, at least 5 pounds, depending
Yeah.
on what you've got. So,
If you got a good boom pole, might be a
Yeah.
few other extra pounds.
well, not only that, but like when you put it out, you're like a crane operator, right?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, the further you have it out, the more it's like
Yes.
leaning and stuff.
Yes. So it's just like every time it dipped into the frame, we were like, Carson, higher. And it was just like,
Yeah. Was that on this recent project that you're working on, Vulnerable?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's cool.
yeah. So that was really fun, really interesting to watch.
Do you usually work with Carson with like audio stuff, or how did you come
No,
in with her?
actually, I hired someone out because I didn't know any location sound people locally. So I actually went through the Copper Owl, and Dave, he runs that whole company, and he actually started working with Carson. I can't remember which set they met on. But he's done a lot of stuff around here. Like he did
Okay.
some stuff for like the Murdaugh documentaries
Nice.
and things like that. Like he's been around for a minute. So I hired him out, and he called me one day, and he was like, "Hey, I just met this awesome person. I thought of you for your film, but if you need a boom operator, I would love to have her come shadow me, blah, blah, blah." He even took a pay cut so that she could get paid
Nice.
out of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I called her up, and I was like, "Hey, like, blah, blah, blah," brief interview. She ended up being really, really great. And I've already sent her resume out to
Nice.
everyone that I know on the East Coast. So yeah, he just wants to help people who are just starting out. So she's actually just about to graduate college. So
Okay, nice.
yeah, so really cool.
So he does like mostly audio stuff?
Yeah,
for
so location
productions?
sound is anyone who deals with like your lapel mic,
I see, okay.
your boom mic, your whatever. So there's a lot involved into it. I'm not even going to pretend that I know everything that's involved in it. I just know that sound is, I have always been told, is one of the most important things that you can have in a film or production or podcast or anything.
Yeah.
Like your sound is the most important.
Yeah, definitely.
'Cause
I'd rather
otherwise-
watch something that is like in standard definition with good audio than something in 4K with trash
Yeah.
audio or whatever,
Yep. Because we've all had those, clips that we've heard where it's like you hear mouth noises. Can't deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, either mouth noises or there's like weird static or it's really echoey.
Yeah.
It's hard to listen to, but it's easy to watch something that's not in great quality. It's very difficult to listen to something that,
Yeah.
so.
That's true. Well, when did you start like making films, or like when did you start like playing around with like storytelling yourself?
Oh my gosh. As long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone goes through that phase in childhood where, maybe you have your stuffed animals or maybe it's a pine cone or whatever, and you're telling stories and you're creating these worlds with them, right? Like playing with toys,
Yeah.
basically. And whatever that toy looks like, whatever play looks like, So I probably did that
Right.
for the majority of my youth. And then as soon as I learned how to write, I was like, okay. I started writing scripts probably when I was, I don't know, 4th grade,
Nice.
I would
Okay.
say. Yeah. So as soon as I understood what formatting was for that kind of thing, I just started writing scripts, started writing little plays. They were just like one page.
Nice.
And I would pass them around to my friends. They weren't great. But, it's 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, whatever.
Yeah.
No one's...
Hey, can you critique my screenplay, man?
Yeah, exactly. So, I would pass them around. I would always have like a space on the other side or maybe a couple pages in where it'd be like critique, literally. And I
Wow.
would have my friends like review it.
my God.
And so fun fact, David Whittington, who is my casting director and also a fellow actor, he was there. We went to middle school together.
Nice.
He was one of those people who would write the little comments. And so we circled back to each other so many years later, like 2 decades later.
Uh-huh.
And now we're working on each other's films.
Nice.
So it's like a really cool really
full circle moment.
Yeah, it's very full circle. So
That's crazy.
So yeah, I've been writing scripts for as long as I can remember, but growing up in Charleston and not somewhere like LA, you don't really think there's a career in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always just something I did for fun. And I would write however many pages of books. I would write short stories. I would just write.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought it would go anywhere because I didn't think that it would be a sustainable career.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing it, and I'm really glad I did.
Yeah. What did you do out of high school? Or, did you study that in college, or did you go
No.
Nice.
I didn't study screenwriting or anything, or film or anything at all. So I went to college, actually, at Clemson.
Nice.
I went to their art department for sculpture.
Okay, nice.
So, and even then, that was all storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Every single thing that I did was either I was creating artifacts for stories that were just in my brain, or, I was creating like a whole, like a comic or whatever, like just narratives,
Yeah.
whatever.
These things that you made have some,
Yeah.
lore behind it and stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So everything told a story, and that's always been something that's really, really important for me. You can actually look at all of my work for each year of college. There was a different story each time that I was thinking about in my head. Like one year, I was really big on, I was trying to write a graphic novel, which is hilarious
Nice.
because what an undertaking.
Yeah.
But I had this whole idea for like these insects who had developed some sort of anthropomorphic whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to have this uprising against like the more human looking insects, and there's less
Okay.
human looking insects.
Mm.
It was called Insecticide. Like
Nice.
really, really, really intense. But anyway, so I had a whole year where my work was literally just insects. And, of course that then evolved into just studying science and looking into just the different ecologies of all of these different insects, and then also carrying that into this graphic novel that I was writing. And then, of course, it became too big for me to actually do on my own.
Really, yeah.
Maybe one day I'll pick it up, so.
Yeah, you should finish that.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So,
Yeah, it's just like the world of that they live in, you know what I mean? These creatures and stuff, that's kind
Yeah.
of got your brain going.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
So, it's just, I think I took an entomology class. I think it was my sophomore year because, you needed however many credits, electives, whatever, and I just picked entomology because I was like, that seems cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved it.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
It's the study of insects.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I took this class, and it was so inspiring and so cool. And that's when I realized most of my storytelling and inspiration comes from science.
Yeah.
So then the next year, I did my whole senior thesis actually was based on this dystopian, future world. And it was about what maybe 50 years from now, how we would evolve. And then 100 years in the future, people are walking through a museum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at artifacts from 50 years from now
Gotcha.
and what that would look like. So just really cheeky.
Yeah.
Really kind of silly, very on the nose stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a sci-fi B movie or something.
Exactly.
Like that premise.
Yeah. But I wrote a whole magazine for that. I developed a whole board game for that. And so at my final show, people were playing it. So it's just everything was a unique little story.
Yeah. Just whatever medium you need to do it in or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is storytelling.
Yeah.
There's a billion stories just in your one fingernail, right? It's really cool when you think about it. Every single molecule has been a billion different places and more probably.
Yeah.
And if those molecules could talk, what stories would they tell? I don't know. It's just really...
Yeah, no, you're right.
You could spend days thinking about this.
Right, yeah. You can go really far down the rabbit hole. Everything has a chain of events behind it or decisions made,
Yeah.
even just some little pieces of a car, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Some reason I think about that a lot of times when I see cars, I'm there's some design aspect of it, and then it's someone chose to do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole movie Ford versus Ferrari about oh man, why did I do this? You know what I mean? So there's really a story behind everything in that sense.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Have you always been like good at like drawing or like sculpting, like visual arts like that, or like what kind of drew you to that? Just naturally doing it?
Yeah, so I was really into art in school, especially high school, middle school, all of that. Drawing was just such a relaxing thing for me. If you look back in a lot of my old sketchbooks, you can see where I was getting a lot of emotion out on the pages. And it was a way that I really felt safe expressing myself.
It was a good outlet for you as a young...
Yeah, because I wasn't really into journaling that much because I was always afraid of someone finding my innermost thoughts and reading them verbatim for what they were.
Right, yeah.
So I ended up just drawing a lot of my emotions and expressing a lot of that in that way because, you know, it's very open to interpretation.
Right, if someone came across it, they'd be like, huh, I wonder what she means by this.
Yeah, and that said, you know, there were a ton of instances where I got in trouble in school for drawing too much because I really, you know, bless my teachers, I really didn't pay attention at all in middle school. I mean, I had my math workbook, and instead of doing the math problems, I just very blatantly drew pictures instead. And there would be like a word bubble that was like, I'm not doing my math homework.
Yeah.
And the teachers would have to call my parents, and my parents would like look at every drawing and be like, look at this. So I expressed myself. Instead of math, I expressed myself. And, you know, I think that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Were you one of those kids who it's like, she's really smart, but just needs to do it, like apply herself?
Yeah,
like,
it probably.
I was one of those kids where like the teachers were like, just please have him do his homework, please. You know what I mean? Like
my poor parents.
Just so distracted and stuff.
Yeah, so, you know, I got my sketchbook confiscated quite a bit in school, too. And then, of course, the teachers would flip through and they'd be like, these are disturbing images.
That seems like an invasion of...
Yeah.
Like, why would they do that?
Because I don't really think that kids in 6th grade have the rights that you would hope that they have to the privacy of their sketchbook. And also, if you're cheeky enough to be sketching blatantly in class... like, and your teacher is like, what is going on here? So they confiscated it. They gave it to the guidance counselor. She went through the whole book, and she like called me to her office and was like, I think you need therapy. And I was like, that's your opinion. Just so rude.
Damn, nice.
Yeah, my poor parents. It's fine. I was much better in high school.
Really?
I still drew instead of doing my homework, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it was always a really, really nice form of expressing myself. Because regardless, you know, words are one thing, you know, unless it's poetry or something very beautifully written, it's not really open to interpretation in terms of, you know,
it's way more literal.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I just found a lot more comfort in drawing because it felt safer. I don't know why. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of do it however you want with drawings, and like for me at least, like writing takes like a lot of brain power, you know what I mean? Just like I have to really like sit and like put it together, like how I want this to be said, how I want it to be read by the person, stuff. And then it's like drawing, you can just go at it and whatnot.
Yeah, and you can kind of just zone out too. I mean, I guess you could say some people do the same for writing, but
yeah, I don't know how those people do it. I don't know how writers do it, authors and stuff like of books. You know what I mean? I guess you like writing. I
like writing, but I'm not very good at prose. I'm more dialogue focused.
Gotcha.
So, and that's why like screenplays, very fun for me to write.
Yeah. So you went to Clemson and got, you know, your art degree. You were studying bugs and whatnot. When did you make your first film project? Was that before or after, or how did that come about?
So actually, it wasn't until I got hired at my last company. So I went to College of Charleston to get my master's, and I actually got connected with someone who worked with what was then called, and so I worked there for like 4 years, and those were actually my first film projects was through this like corporate, you know, world, which was really interesting. And I will say it taught me a lot. But this Vulnerable, it's my first independent project.
I see. Okay.
So, it's the first thing that I've had creative control and been the producer.
Yeah.
And,
it's like your story that you're going for.
Exactly.
What kind of stuff did you make with that first production company? Were they like short films or like corporate films or?
So they were actually television shows.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, and a lot of them were very animal focused, and so I was in heaven.
Yeah, yeah.
It was my job to watch videos about animals and then do research about animals.
Dang.
And honestly, I had so much fun doing that.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I mean, I learned so much too. It's just so cool. We call it my party trick. Like, I can just tell you a very, very random fact about any type of animal.
Nice.
So, for example, here's one.
Yeah.
Termites.
Okay.
They have a trail marking pheromone that is the same or similar type of scent that a pen from the company Bic has. So if you draw lines on paper, they're going to follow it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's
Dang.
really neat. So you could, like, in art school, I actually did a performance art experiment
Nice.
where I drew like lines on my body, and then I had my boyfriend, now husband at the
Nice.
time, like, this is true love.
Yeah.
He had to
Yeah.
he had to sprinkle the termites onto my skin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was that a first date?
Actually,
First-
second.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's awesome. Hey, when you know, you know.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. He was like, "This is so weird," and I was like, "Yes."
Wow, that should be its own short film, love story, rom-com. Hey,
Yeah.
can you dump this jar of termites on my body?
Yeah, actually, it was
Did
like
you
an
do that in
old...
front of an audience?
No.
Okay.
So we filmed it. So I
Gotcha.
guess that was my first film.
Nice.
Yeah.
Concept thing.
I reckon. Yeah, something like that.
That story is open to interpretation.
Exactly.
The meaning of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. True love was the outcome. So
That's nice. Yeah, exactly. Play out your... Oh, you already had your wedding. But so when did like the making of Vulnerable start? Like, where did the process of writing that story come from, or like when did that begin?
3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I have, and I'm very open about this too. So I have always struggled with, depression, social anxiety, and, like suicidal tendencies. So it's something that writing and drawing has always, those are the things that really grounded me through those things. And it was actually storytelling. As a kid, I would have like 1 or 2 or 3 stories that I was writing at any given time, and it was always something that I would hold on to that wasn't school, it wasn't, whatever, it was something completely within my control, that it was completely up to me to carry on. So now that said, I've always struggled with that.
Right.
Always. And so 3 years ago, I couldn't pretend anymore. And so I couldn't pretend that I was okay anymore. So I just started thinking about how I could get better. And it's such a difficult question, right? Especially when you've lived your whole life thinking, okay, I just need to change my mentality. I just need to change my mentality. No. When you need help, you need help. It's not a mentality thing. And so I needed help. And it was so difficult to reach just an inch. All I had to do was look at someone and be like, hey,
Yeah.
I need help. Like,
Yeah.
now. It's getting dangerous. So
But it's such a hard thing to do for some
it's
reason.
so hard because
Yeah.
not only are you thinking about yourself, right? And, the outcome of that.
Right.
But you're also thinking about, how is this going to hurt my loved ones?
Yeah.
How is this is going to devastate them. And now it's one more thing for them to worry about.
You don't want to burden them. And
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
But it's also at the same time, how would you feel if someone that you loved and knew was going through that
And they never told you.
and they
stuff.
didn't reach out for help? And so that's what I had to really hold on to. And so it was one day I was driving home. I was listening to the song I always listen to. And I had started going to meditation at a local little meditation studio. And I was really enjoying that. And I was doing that to try and help myself feel good and, just ground and get through the stuff, but it wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was driving and I just had this, I can't really explain it other than it felt like a flower bloomed inside of my head.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it physically felt. And my fingers tingled and I was like, I need to ask for help or I'm going to end up dead.
Right.
And so, you know, I make it sound like this beautiful thing, and it really was. Like, it sounds really scary. It sounds really bad. But it was really this beautiful moment. And I just started crying because I was like, this means that I want to
Save yourself.
continue.
And, yeah.
And I'm so grateful that that happened. And I don't know why that happened, but it did.
Yeah.
And so that day I went home and I actually, excuse me.
You good?
I asked my husband, we had been married for, Jordan, he and I had been married, I think, for four years at that point. Yeah, because 3 years ago, so
Nice.
it'll be 7 years in April. I was like, we need to go on a walk. And so I told him everything. And so for however long, we've been together for 10 years now. So I guess we had been together for, 7 years then. Yeah, I can't do math very well. It's an effort every single time.
Yeah.
There's a number involved.
For real.
Because I drew on all my math homework.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
So, you know, I told him everything. And he was devastated. He had no idea. And that's so scary to me. It's so scary. I was living a double life.
Right.
And at the end of it, like, he was so supportive. He didn't treat me differently. Because I made the point of saying, I have been like this the entire time we've been together.
Yeah.
I just didn't tell you.
Right.
And so supportive. And so it was then that I was like, man, I just started thinking about that double life. I started thinking about, you know, how you're on one side of the phone and you have no idea what's happening on the other side of the phone.
Right.
So this entire film is inspired by that, by what different faces we put on for people even when we need help. And the entire point of the film basically is to save a life and make them think, helpfully have that flower bloom inside of their head, those who need it, and those who are on the other side of the phone, those who are like in my husband's position or whatever back then, them to be like, oh, okay, maybe I need to create more space, or, oh, I'm doing a really good job. It's just going to be completely up to that person to reach out. It's so hard to do it, but I had to take accountability, right?
Right, yeah.
And, you know, as soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, we can work on this. We can work together on this. And that was basically the inspiration for the film. I can't talk too much about it because I don't want spoilers.
Of course.
But
no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. I mean, yeah, in the couple dynamic aspect of it, it's interesting because, like, you know, it can, if someone doesn't know about it, you know, you don't want them to feel like they're the issue if they're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that kind of thing. And, like, was it, I mean, yeah, don't say anything you don't want to, but, like, was it space that helped you with that? Or, like, you know, he was really supportive and, like, giving you what you need in terms of, like, he didn't treat you differently, but, like, how did he support you through that? And, like, how was it helpful to have him during that time?
Well, yeah, in a lot of ways. But, and, you know, a lot of that I don't necessarily, like, I feel like it could be spoilers for the film or whatever.
Gotcha, okay.
But,
yeah.
Basically, it just opened up that line of communication between us that we didn't have before.
Yeah, you built that barrier to mask it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
well, I had built it my entire life, right? And so, like, the fact that I'm talking about this on a podcast is, like, that would have been wild to me, right? Like 3-4 years ago, that would have been wild.
Hey, we got the exclusive scoop.
The scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, about my mental health.
Exactly. Front page.
Yeah, oh, please.
No, I'm sorry, yeah.
Bless. But, yeah, like, it just opened up that vein of communication. And so, together, we both learned how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that, and not that he wouldn't have been willing, but I think what was really helpful for me was that it wasn't like I told him and he was like, I can't believe this.
Right.
Like, why didn't you tell? It was like okay, well, how can we fix this? And I said, I don't know. And he didn't push me. And so creating that space and being open to the conversation.
Right.
Biggest thing.
Yeah.
Biggest thing. Because some people, they don't have that space. They won't create that space. That's their prerogative. That's their business.
Yeah.
It's not their responsibility to create that space for me. And so what I think is really helpful is when someone like who's the closest to me of anyone on this planet was so willing, so ready, not a question, and just, okay, here's the space. Let's discuss it. Let's go through this. Let's solve the problems that we can solve, and let's, list out the ones that we don't understand.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm extremely lucky to have, found and built a relationship and a life with him. I mean, yeah.
To be able to feel safe to do that and whatnot,
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so that really inspired the entire film. I actually have the first, sometimes you write out little log lines or whatever in your phone or like in your notebook or whatever you have. And I have the very first log line that I ever wrote for it, like still saved in my notes on my phone. And it was, I think, 2-3 weeks after that conversation. Yeah. So it's just pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. I mean, and what you're saying is true. It's like, without kind of like the accountability on yourself, with yourself, like you can't, not anyone's really going to be able to go out of their way to knock down that barrier with you and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like, I had to have a lot of tough love for myself and be like, hey, no one can read your mind. No one's going to swoop in and save you. This isn't a movie. I know you love movies, but no one's going to do that. No one's going to burst through the wall in a cape and be like, here's some therapy. No, you have to go find that. You have to do that on your own, and it's really hard. But that's why you ask for help, because having that support, even if it was like, wow, like I am so terrified of calling, these counseling places or calling my doctor or whatever. Sometimes support just looks like, hey, I'll sit here with you while you make that phone call. Or, hey, I'll just type the number into your phone and all you have to do is hit, call. Sometimes that's what support looks like. It can be so easy to give, but it's so difficult to take.
That's true, yeah. Because people that are going through that kind of stuff, it's common to be like, it's hard to receive love.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Compliments and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
So you're kind of like, meh, go away.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. And so, my aunt, she's actually an actor in the film as well, which is like a really funny thing because, I had no idea that my aunt could act. I knew she was one heck of a singer. She's a very talented singer and musician. My mom's whole side of the family, I feel, is very artistic.
Okay.
Very good with music and writing and things like that. Just cool stuff. But yeah, so she actually auditioned and I was so impressed. But she gave me some great advice, which was, when you're worried about how people perceive you, think about if your really close friend was in that same situation and what would you tell them? And I was like, And so at that moment, so I'm actually playing a part in the film as well, because there's a bit of a cathartic piece to that, which I can get to later.
Sure.
But I felt kind of icky because I was like, I don't want people to think I just created this film so I could have some part in it. It's like a really small part.
Yeah.
But, I was feeling self-conscious about that because I didn't want people to think, oh, she just is trying to be famous. Like, no, I'm really not. Like, I want to wear 8 layers of sweats and be underneath like 5 or 6 blankets with, some trashy reality television show on in the background.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's happy place.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah, my husband and I watch reality TV like it's sports. It's
it's more entertaining than sports, I feel like.
I concur. But yeah, so she told me that and I was like, you know what I would tell my friend if it was like you or if it was China or someone, I would be like, hell yeah, get after it,
Yeah.
Go live your dream. And I was like, oh, I guess I should tell myself the same thing I would tell someone else.
It kind of tricks your brain into like treating yourself the way you would treat your, because you should treat yourself like your best friend. You know what I mean? Because like
exactly.
at the end of the day, it's kind of all you have.
Yeah.
So
Getting into that cathartic aspect of that, it's interesting you say that. Treat yourself like your best friend. I'm playing the part of the best friend in the film, and that whole character is actually not based off of my best friends because, one, I couldn't pick one. I have so many lovely, amazing, badass ladies in my life. But also, when I was writing, it just felt very natural for me to base that best friend character off of myself and how I speak to myself now.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's cool giving that voice to it because the character in the film is very, you know, it's based off of me. I was going to say loosely, but, like, no, it's based off of me.
Yeah.
So she's based off of me, and I'm speaking to her in my role as the best friend how I speak to myself now.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of like you speaking to yourself.
In the past, yeah.
In a way, yeah.
So it's like kind of this interesting, like very artistic, like whatever, but
No,
I really
cool.
wanted to cast someone else in the role, but my my director of photography, David, he was like, no, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to be this character. And I was like, are you sure? Yeah.
Don't make me.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely makes sense for the story that you're telling and
Yeah.
like, you know, the meaning of all that and whatnot.
Yeah. So very interesting. But yeah, which by the way, shout out to David Navarro because he's actually the first person I told about this script. We were working on, when I was still working with the corporate people, we met on set out in LA a couple of times actually over the last 4 years that I was working there.
Nice.
And we just became good friends, and he and I always kind of bounced ideas off of each other while we're waiting around because on those types of sets, it's like
a lot of downtime.
You sit around a lot, yeah. And so I told him about the idea, and he was like, "Send it to me."
Nice.
I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" So I sent it to him, and then I guess like 2.5 years after that point, here we are.
Dang.
And he flew from LA to here to film it with his equipment.
Dang.
You know, amazing support. Probably one of the best mentors and friends I've been able to develop in my career. Like, really, really cool guy. So, David, if you're watching this, you're the best.
Shout out to David. Yeah, it's really important to have that, I don't know, kind of collaborative trust or, like, you know what I mean, relationship with somebody who, like, you're close enough with and whatnot.
Exactly. So he and I are actually working on, I think, like 8 or so projects right now where we're 50-50 partners for my business, for Unflappable.
Nice.
So, yeah, really amazing, supportive, talented, creative, just awesome mentor.
Yeah.
And very down to earth.
Really?
Very down to earth. So we did the voiceover recordings for when I was playing the best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he took one of the lines and now he just keeps sending it to me as like a joke, like as a meme, and I'm just
one
like,
of the audio pieces of audio.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's the line where I'm like, Beyonce says differently.
Oh yeah.
Now he just keeps like sending that to me, so he's just using my own voice against me.
Beyonce says differently.
Beyonce says differently.
Yeah.
See, you know it. You know, you remember.
I was
the
listening
line.
to it, you know, a lot, like editing and stuff.
It's like he just keeps sending that to me, and I'm just like,
Oh,
okay.
brutal.
It's so brutal.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not an actor. Don't hate me.
That's funny.
But yeah, so funny.
What was it like for you, kind of like extending yourself to the acting part of it? Like, is that kind of the first time you've stepped out and...
Yeah, I don't act.
Really?
Yeah,
You don't see yourself as an actor?
So I was in a couple of plays in high school, but always a side character, like side, like over there, side character, right?
The tree, the bush.
So my sister is actually an incredibly talented actor.
Okay, nice.
So, you know, growing up watching her, maybe I picked up a couple of tips. I don't know. I mean, she's incredible. And then, of course, working with talent in the industry, that's always very inspiring. You can always pick up tips there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it was my first time, like,
reading
acting.
the lines and stuff.
Yeah, like acting.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
please be kind when everyone watches it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think of the art. Think of the art of it.
Yeah, exactly. Think of the point.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you do you like that kind of stuff? Like, I mean, because it is a character that like you know very well, like because you made it and everything.
Yeah.
But like, is that something that you would want to try to do in the future? Like maybe bringing it to acting on camera, or?
I don't know. To be honest, I really like being on the other side of the camera.
Right.
I hate taking pictures of myself. I don't like it. I don't like it. Like I said, 8 layers of sweats, 6 layers of blankets. Let's just be a hermit. It's chill.
Yeah.
I like it.
Be unseen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I think acting, I don't think it's something that you can just do unless you're really, really just naturally gifted and talented.
That is so true.
I think it takes a tremendous amount of mental effort.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy to me how people can act, especially like, you know, on the professional high levels and stuff. Yeah. It's like you either can do it or you can't. You know what I mean? Like the way that you just pretend, but in like, you know, the most truest sense of the word. And you can just, because there is a part of it that's just kind of like cringe at face value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're whoever you are. Mm-hmm. But like just people who can just get into it, you know what I mean? And then just be that always blows me away. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's crazy.
Well, there's some very talented actors out there. I can't name them, but I remember reading something about this a while ago. And they were like, I've never actually seen one of my own shows or movies that I've starred in because I literally can't. Like,
yeah.
It's just so cringe. Like,
yeah.
I can't watch myself do this. And
that would be me.
It's me too. Yeah. So who is it? Caroline, our star. So there's 2 Carolines on set. Caroline McGee. She's our star. She plays the lead role in the film. And then Caroline Herring took all of the incredible photos that you see on the social media for the film.
That's awesome.
She took all of those. She spent 3 days, I guess 8 hours a day or so, just taking photos of all of us at all odd hours of the day. They all turned out beautifully. I mean, what a talented...
Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh, that's right. You know her. Yeah, she's amazing. Like she's so talented.
Yeah, we've meant to get her on the show soon. We're going to do that soon, but yeah, she's awesome.
Amazing. It's
so nice to have photos of just you guys in the process of it. Like that's really kind of a special thing.
Well, and she captured some really amazing moments of our actors. So obviously this is a very heavy film. You know, you see the official hero images of Caroline McGee, our actor, and she's like, she looks sad. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at the pictures and it's just like, all right, this is going to be a really intense film. She caught these amazing photos of Caroline that I'm actually going to share later this week where she's just having so much fun.
Nice.
Because literally as soon as the camera would go off, she would like break out into a jig of like tap dancing and like be laughing and like whatever. Like she was amazing. I mean, she could just on, off.
Yeah. Wow.
Amazing. We are all such big fans of hers.
Really?
I mean, I think she said this was her first film that she was in. Huh. You would not guess it. I mean, we were all just floored by her. I mean, there's some performances when you go and see the film on May 4th. Nice.
Yeah, May 4th where?
At the Sottile Theater, okay. However you would like to pronounce it. I don't know.
Yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, so she just on, off, amazing. Would go through these brutal scenes where she's having to like cry. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as that would be done, she'd be oh my God. Who's hungry? Like, wow. Amazing.
Yeah, the crying in itself is a feat.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, because of the brutal nature of some of these scenes, we made sure that we had a psychologist on set and everything too, but like,
wow. Oh, that's nice.
You know, her mental fortitude is
what for like the cast and crew to like
for everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. Just because, you know, when it's one person on camera acting, that's already mentally taxing. especially when you're someone who's used to, I imagine, for someone who's used to being on a stage where you've got, 3, 4, 5 other people, or you're doing a monologue or whatever. It's a very different vibe, I feel, than being the only person on camera for 8 hours a day for 3 days straight. I think our last day actually went quite long. I think it was 12 hours. And you're having to act through these very emotional, very brutal scenes on your own. There's no other actors. And you have 15 people staring at you from behind really expensive equipment and lights. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot. Her mental fortitude was incredible.
Wow.
So, she was able to, the therapist was able to, come in and talk to some of the crew and her a little bit. And I think it was a good call because a lot of us, on the flip side, okay, it's difficult for the actor. On the flip side, she's such a good actor.
Yeah.
We all had to remember that she's acting.
Right, yeah.
And so I just remember one of our, I forget what title we gave him, but he did a little bit of everything. Well, production manager. Our production manager, Ian. So he was like, oh, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And he and I, shared a look while she was going through one of these scenes, and he was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, it's hard.
Dang.
It's hard to watch. But it's really cool because our whole crew ended up just being one big family.
Yeah.
I mean, Caroline got a ton of pictures of all of us eating around a table, having a good time. And none of that was manufactured. That was all very real. I didn't even know she was taking pictures. So I'm looking back at all of this and I'm like, everyone had a good time except for when we were all trying really hard not to break onto the scene and console Caroline, who's just acting. But yeah.
That's insane. I've heard, stories of actors who will do a really heavy role and stuff, and they kind of it kind of lingers in them for a while or whatever.
Yeah.
But she sounds like she was able to kind of turn that off and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also, everyone who was on set was just such a good, genuine person. Just so open, so honest, and, title plug, so vulnerable with each other. By the end of it, I hope that she felt really comfortable being able to go to those places around all of us because, I mean, every single person just supported each other. It was such a great crew. I mean, even the people that we didn't really know, like Carson and Dave, who, I didn't know sound people, so they came in. They were amazing. We all fit right in. You'd think that we had all been shooting for a month by the end of it, right? But it had only been 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
So.
Yeah, it sounds important, especially for, topics of that nature and whatnot, to kind of feel safe on set with everybody and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How did you meet Caroline? Did she come to you through just casting and stuff, or did you? Okay, nice.
Yeah. So she just responded to the ad, and she actually did a Zoom audition because she was supposed to come in, and then something happened, and she ended up having to be at home, which is not in Charleston. And so we did a quick Zoom, and it was just wild. My casting director, David Whittington, there were 3 Davids on set, by the way, and 2 Carolines. Okay, nice. So I say David, I say David, I say Caroline, I say Caroline. It's there's a lot.
Right.
But yeah, so he has been an actor for a great many years, and he's SAG-AFTRA qualifying.
Okay.
I forget how that goes. The Actors Union.
Yeah.
Really, really good. He's been on off-Broadway. He's directed off-Broadway. He's been acting for a while now. And he was just blown away. He was like, her.
Wow.
Her. And I was like, really? Not surprised, but I was just like.
Yeah. You could see it kind of going off in him or whatever.
Yeah. He was just almost immediately, and I slept on it, and I was like, yeah, her.
Nice.
Because ultimately I had the final say, but.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But.
That confidence, seeing that.
Zero.
Excitement.
Well, yeah, and also it's just, I don't trust my opinion as much as I trust a professional actor's opinion on acting, right?
Yeah. That's why you have him there.
Yeah, Yeah, well,
yeah.
and also he's just an incredibly bright person who has helped me through almost every aspect of this process. He's actually the first person I called as soon as David Navarro was like, hey, your script's in a good place for, starting the pre-production process.
Yeah.
He's the first person I called because there is a scene where there is a shot of a weapon, and David Whittington is actually also like a certified weapons master.
Oh, nice.
So he's the first person I called because I was like, hey, can't make this film unless someone like you is on set. Do you want in?
That's a relevant situation.
And it was the first time we had talked in probably 20 years. And he was just like, absolutely. I was like,
Nice.
Cool. Now we're working together.
Just curious, is that pre or post the Rust incident with Alec Baldwin? Do you know?
So, oh, you brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have very strong opinions
Really?
on Alec Baldwin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to know what you think.
Well, first off, I think he should be in jail.
Really?
100%. Yeah, because... Well, let me finish my thought about David first. So
Okay.
he was the first person I called, and this was, I think, during that whole thing, possibly. I'm not entirely sure, but regardless...
Yeah, I kind of forget when it happened.
Yeah, it happened like 2 years ago, I would think.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so my heart rate's going up. Oof. Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
Cam. You just
I struck a nerve. Bingo.
Unflappable Studios. Okay, well, this one flaps me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So let me start by saying this. The biggest thing that really bothers me on any film set, especially a film set, because I think people forget that movie magic is not actually magic. It's a series of very strict processes that you need to basically go through to make sure everything is in working order, and then the rest of it you hold together with tape, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, but there are certain things that you cannot hold together with tape, and that is safety.
Right.
And so this one's for you, David Whittington. He hates when I say this. You have to practice safe sets.
Okay.
You just do. You just...
Safe sets?
Sets.
Nice.
Yeah. S-E-T-S. Yeah. And that's one thing that I will never, ever compromise on. Safety. If I couldn't get someone like David, like a weapons master or a therapist on set, I wouldn't have filmed it.
Yeah.
At all. Hands down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to name anything or anyone, but I actually got chemical poisoning once on a set because people were not practicing proper safety measures.
Jeez.
And then someone subsequently started telling everyone I only passed out because I didn't eat, but I was actually gearing up for an Olympic weightlifting competition. So I was counting every single macro, every single calorie, every single ounce of water that I was drinking. So no, I did not pass out from a lack of food.
So you're definitely eating.
I was definitely eating. And I can show you the macro chart from that day. No, I was eating.
Wow.
I passed out and my arms went completely numb from ammonium chloride poisoning.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so ever since that incident, just safety, boom, top. If you can't afford having a safe set, cancel your film.
Yeah.
Cancel it. Don't even hire an actor.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well rip it up and put it in the trash, unless you're going to have the proper people on set who are safe. So, circling back. Strong opinions.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin. So, a lot of people are trying to compare what happened with Alec Baldwin and Helena Hutchins to Brandon, is it Brendan Lee?
I don't know.
From The Crow. It's either Brendan or Brandon.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So he got shot on the filming of The Crow by a fellow actor. He passed away.
Okay.
People are comparing it. Here's the difference. He was shot by a fellow actor. Is that fellow actor the producer? No.
Right.
Is that fellow actor the weapons master? No. That fellow actor was trusting the producer and the weapons master to look out for his safety and everyone else's safety on set. Did it happen? No. And that was an accident. And that was terrible. But at the end of the day, you have to check. You have to always check.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, Alec Baldwin, he's the producer.
Right.
And guess what? There had actually been complaints about safety on set, especially
I heard
surrounding
that. Yeah.
the guns.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who hears about that? The producer.
Right, yeah.
Do you know who shot Helena Hutchins? The producer.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that these were complaints that had happened,
Yeah.
he pointed that gun at a person
Yeah.
and pulled the trigger.
Uh-huh.
And so let me repeat that. He pointed a gun
Yeah.
at a person and pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to say, oh, I didn't pull the trigger. The only question we need to ask is why there was a bullet in the chamber. And it's like, no, you know why. Because these were never secure to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that. And you still pointed a gun at someone. And you took away someone's wife. You took away someone's mom. You took away someone's daughter.
Uh-huh.
He should go to jail.
Yeah.
Because there is such a thing as due diligence.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, there is such a thing as accidents on set. I understand that. I really do. But you avoid them at all costs.
Right.
And by all costs, I mean spend the money.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Spend the money. I mean, you're spending how many millions of dollars on a film? You can't afford for someone of like a good reputation to check everyone's guns and lock them up at night? Come on.
Yeah, it's pretty Bush League.
Yeah, how much does the trailer with the Wi-Fi and like the fancy
Right.
toilet cost, right?
Exactly,
like, come
yeah.
on.
Oh my God.
You know?
That's
so
true, yeah.
I have no
Sympathy. and-
sympathy for Alec
yeah.
Baldwin. None.
Mhm.
None at all. And so, you know, okay, maybe he didn't know. Maybe it wasn't malicious. Maybe it really was a mistake. Cool. He's still the senior most person on set. He still knew of
Mhm.
all of these complaints that were coming in. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it was like there was a pattern of them being kind of negligent with other safety
They were,
things.
the reason that a bullet was in the chamber is because some of the PAs were taking it out of the unlocked box, or not just PAs, excuse me, I'm not trying to cast blame on them, but other crew on set, I don't know who,
Right.
were using them for target practice. And also they were not prop guns.
Yeah, that was the thing that kind of like surprised me. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, do they usually use real guns, or like why are there even...
There's two ways to do it. You can get like an actual prop gun, and two ways to my knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, not a professional. That's why I got one to come on to set.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, there's two ways to do it that I know of. So one, you can get an actual prop gun, which cannot fit, you know, a real bullet into the chamber. It
Mhm.
might not even fire or whatever.
Gotcha.
And then you can get a real gun and modify it into a prop gun,
Okay.
which means that you put I believe you put something into the chamber that makes it impossible for a real bullet to get through.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of the times you can have real guns, like on cop shows,
Mm.
things like that, but they've been modified or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, whatever.
But
And
they
so-
had that along with real bullets and stuff just lying around. Like that's crazy.
Apparently, yeah. And regardless of how that was, he still pointed a gun at a person
Exactly. Yeah.
and shot it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The fact that he was producing the whole thing too, it's like
Yeah,
it's up to him.
he's culpable.
Yeah.
And if he's not, like, even if someone else had been killed on that set, he's still culpable.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Even
So-
if it wasn't him.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was him.
Right.
And he is senior most person on set.
Yeah.
And he pointed a gun at a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yes.
It's just insane.
So those are my very strong opinions about it.
Yeah.
And I wish that David Whittington was here because, like, though it's probably a good thing that he's not, because we would probably be, like, throwing things, like, just so angry. Because, yeah, the first thing that we talked about when I reached back out to him was, yeah, I'm not trying to... So I guess it must have been after the rest situation I think about it. Because I was like,
Okay.
the last thing I want is for anyone to think that I'm someone like Alec Baldwin.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. We're
not
gonna do it like
at all.
that.
Yeah. So it was very important to me that I was able to look my actor in the eyes, to look Caroline in the eyes, and look everyone else on my crew in the eyes and be like, there's a 0% chance that anyone is getting shot today.
Yeah.
So, like, 0% chance. So,
Yeah, you'd think that's kind of like a standard workplace accommodation that you would get, you know?
yeah.
If it were any other workplace, you know what I mean? Like,
You would think.
yeah.
You would think. But honestly, Yeah, it's just every little thing can go wrong that can go wrong. And when you have a weapon on set, you have to account for that. You just do. It doesn't matter if it's getting fired. It doesn't matter if it's... I mean, it doesn't matter if it's just sitting on a table.
Right.
Someone could pick it up and make a mistake.
Right.
And, you know, especially when you have people whose job it isn't to be around weapons, you need someone whose job it is.
Yeah.
So, actually, the third day of shooting, I gave David Whittington, he was the weapons master that day. The first 2 days, we didn't have a weapon on set. So, the last day, we had our weapon on set, and he and Chelsea, she's one of my best friends. She actually is also a certified firearm specialist.
Nice.
Like, really cool, really badass person. Yeah, so she and David both teamed up, and they both were around the gun the entire time. When it wasn't in the shot, it was locked in a box behind several barricades that we had built up around it. And neither David nor Chelsea left that gun, and if one of them had to go to the bathroom, there was always someone there.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
0% chance. Everyone got pat down when they walked onto set. Like, even though it was the third day, we were all really chummy with each other. We definitely changed the mood for the last day.
Dang.
And, you know, I actually gave David Whittington the authority to fire me from the set. Yeah, because that's what you have to do.
Fire you from the, like,
Yeah,
get
like,
you away or something? Or, like, why?
So he gave a briefing in the morning
Uh-huh.
and basically, you know, set the tone for the day, which was, if you look at the gun, if you make a joke about the gun, if you do this, if you do that, you're gone. I gave him authority to fire everyone, including myself, from the set that day.
I see.
Because if I wasn't following the protocol, that's not safe.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
sense.
how silly or stupid you think it is.
Right.
We had a toy gun that was actually being used in place for, like, you know, oh, it's like sitting on the table here. I wasn't even allowed to touch it. And it was a toy. It was like a little Nerf gun.
Yeah.
But that's how serious we were about it.
Nice.
And everyone's bag was searched. Everyone's pockets were pat down as soon as they walked in the door that morning at like 8 or 9 a.m., whatever time call time was. And yeah.
Well, I'm sure that contributed to everybody feeling relaxed.
Because not everyone's around guns that often either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very mentally taxing.
It is.
It
yeah.
is.
For people who, like, because I'm not usually ever, you know what I mean? But, you know, one of my roommates does. You know what I mean? It's like freaking Fort Knox in his room. And that's just, like, feels weird to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of makes me uneasy when I think about it. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, we just got a freaking armory in our apartment. Like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone's different. Everyone was raised differently. I was always raised around guns, raised to, like, respect them and not do anything stupid. Not everyone's raised like that, right? You know, not everyone is raised to respect them. Not everyone is raised around them. Right. Not everyone needs to be, like, told, hey, you have to respect this, because they've never seen one or been in the same room as one in their lives. Right. Unless they're around, like, a police officer at, like, I don't know, a restaurant or out in public or something.
Right.
But even then, it's a completely different context. When you're on set and it's a bunch of people who are very inexperienced or not professionals, or, like, this is like, not normal. Yeah,
and it's being used.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we set the complete tone for the day. And, yeah, it was just like, he can fire me. He can fire our camera operator. He can shut down this whole production.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and everyone was amazing about it, too. And I do think it contributed to people feeling safe because, you know, not everyone expressed, no one expressed any differently to me. So,
yeah, nice.
You know, hopefully that's how everyone felt. But, yeah, I mean, a gun is a gun, whether or not it has a bullet in the chamber, and you have to always treat it like it's loaded. Number one rule.
Yeah.
Second rule, never point it at anyone.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll remember those. Well, yeah, I'm glad it ended up fine. No one got shot. It all went well. Yeah. And you guys liked shooting and everything. So when is it coming out again?
May 4th at the Sottile Theater.
Okay. Are you selling tickets to it, or what's the...
Yeah, so the tickets will go on sale first week of April.
Okay.
So you can follow along on the Instagram for Vulnerable. I think it's vulnerable_short film.
Okay.
At Instagram or...
Yeah.
I'm really good at talking about social media handles. Yeah. I often forget what they are, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it? So we'll just put it somewhere in like the
Yeah, I'll
lower,
put it right
yeah,
there,
the
yeah.
lower third somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
This general area.
Okay.
Look. So, yeah, so you can follow along for more there. We're still getting the box office set up at this moment. So
Okay.
the goal is first week of April.
Cool.
Tickets will be on sale.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. And thank you so much for talking to me, Claire.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, me too. My pleasure.
Apple Juice 2. Apple Juice Apple Juice.